Thank you for returning for this next video. This is the Tech High Priest. Uh, Before we continue, I would like to take some time to explain something to you about the Linux hierarchy, the Linux hierarchical structure. In every system in life, there is a hierarchy. Like in the United States, we probably start with the president, then we go to the vice president, then we go to the secretary of state, and then back to the states level, we get to governors, and then we finally get to citizens like us, right? Or in the house where we start with dad, mom, and then the children, or maybe even the Godhead where we have Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and then the rest of us, right? So we have this hierarchy in life, and even in the Linux file system, there is a hierarchy. Now, most of you coming from the Windows background, you know what's your C drive. I'm going to show you your C drive. If you go to your Windows machine, I'll click on the Explorer folder of my own, and that will take me to my Windows machine. And over here is my C drive. This is where everything begins in Windows, the C drive. Let me see if I could make it larger for you. If I double click on it, I will go and I will see some directories in my system, and I can see maybe here users, and I will see my username over here, and that's how my files are stored in the Windows operating system. In Linux, however, it's different. Instead of a C drive, as in Windows, we have what we call the root file system, the root drive. I'm going to go ahead and log in on my Linux machine, and I will show you the root drive. So you get to Linux, and then you open your file system. If you come here and I click on Files, and if you see here, it takes us to Home, Documents. If I click on Home, and I click here in this address bar, you will see that it's /home/php. So the very first location in Linux, instead of having a C drive, we have a /. This / means a root drive, root. So it's called the root drive. That's where everything begins in Linux. And so while we have a C drive in Windows, in Linux, we have a root drive. So I would show you one quick command. In Linux, if you have to move in a terminal, for example, you see I'm able to open here and open desktop. Well, for the most part, you will be working with the command line. So if you go on your terminal in Linux, which we already opened, and I'm sure you guys know how to go to your terminal by now. In Ubuntu, show apps, and this you're going to see what terminal somewhere around here. This terminal, double click on that. Let's open our terminal. I come here on Ubuntu, click here, show all apps, then I come here to terminal. So the first thing I'm going to do, I want to maximize it, and I would like to increase the font size so you all can see well. So if I want to do an ls, I see these are the bunch of stuff that I have. I see I have desktop, downloads, music, public. Let's say I want to move to the music folder. I want to enter the music folder. How do I do that? I'm going to use the command called cd. This command simply means change directory. And then I'll say cd and then music. Linux is case sensitive. If you see music is written in uppercase, so you don't go in there with lowercase. It's not going to work. And then I hit enter. And there you go, I'm in the music folder. However, like I told you, the beginning of all things in Linux is a /. It's called the root directory. I would like us to visit the root directory. So we're going to use the command again called cd space, and I'm going to give the name of the directory. In Windows, we have a C drive. In Linux, we have the root directory. And I put a /, and that means take me to the root directory. And I hit enter. There you go, I'm in the root directory. Now we're going to hit ls one more time, ls, and we can see a bunch of folders. We see bin user, merge, boot, dev, exe, home. I'm going to explain to you what every one of these things mean. And if I want to do a long listing, I could do an ls-l. I hit enter. You see, I see it in a different format where there is a long listing. I will also, in another class, I'll explain to you the meaning of all of these permissions. So I'm going to clear my screen again. So I want to know what is my present location. Where am I right now? So I'll write the command pwd. It prints your current work directory. Where are you located? I hit enter. And there we go. It says I am in the root. Okay, so guys, now that you understand what is root, I told you root is where everything begins in Linux. It's the beginning of all things. It's like the C drive in your Windows machine. Now I'm going to take you and we're going to look a little bit on the Linux hierarchical diagram. So in the Linux system hierarchy, as I mentioned, everything begins from root. And root is denoted or by this sign, a forward slash. That is root. It always starts with a forward slash. So root is denoted by a forward slash. Under root, we have other directories. Under root, we have home, we have user, exe, root, opt, lib, lob, sbin, bin, var, mount, media, this. And under var, we have other directories like temp, log, cache, and spool. So everything begins from root. And from root, you have all the other directories. So if I say I'm in a location, now I want you to follow this very attentively. Let's say I want to get here at spool. Look at here, spool. So I'm going to try to get a different pen color. I want to get there at spool. How do I get the spool? I start from root. That's where everything begins. And I walk on this line. I'm going to work until I get to var. This var. And after var, I'll come down and then I'll find myself here at spool. That's how you get to spool. What about include? How do I get to include? So to get to include, the journey is going to be, again, we're going to start from root. This is where everything begins, guys. Don't forget. Everything begins there at root. So to get to include, we're going to start from roots. We're going to move our line again. Let me get a blue pen this time. We're going to move from roots. And we're going to go this way. We're going to go under US arrow. And then we're going to go to include. So that is the path to get to include. So this gives us a very clear understanding of what the hierarchical system looks like. So I want us to write this thing out. What does it mean? Like I said, I wanted to go to path and I wanted to go to include. How do I get there? And we've traced the line. So let's do one thing. I want us to show me the exact path to go to spool. Remember we said we start from roots. Okay, roots. So we're going to write that down. Roots. Then we go to where? We go to var. Okay, so we write var. And then what next? Then under var, we see spool. So I put slash spool. This is how you write it. It means start at the roots, and then you get to var, and then under var, you get spool. That's what it means, slash var, slash spool. Okay, what about coming here to include? We are going to say, we're going to start again from where? From roots again. So I'm going to write it down. That's the root. I just wrote it down. After root, where do we get to? We're trying to get here to include. Where do we go to? We go to US arrow. So all right, US arrow. Okay, and then after US arrow, where do you find yourself? Say include. So I come down here and then I write include. So you see, slash US arrow slash include. The very first slash means the root directory, the one over here. And then every other slash in between just means under US arrow, you find this one. That's just what it means. This means root, and then mean under var, you will find spool. Now, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment sections. But that is actually how you navigate the Linux file system. That is the Linux hierarchical structure. Now, what do all of these mean? What do all of these mean? I'm going to take some time to explain to you what they mean. So the very first one, we're going to call it roots. Roots, I told you, is the beginning of all things. It's the topmost directory. It's the highest directory. Everything begins from root. And then what about home? Home is where you would have the home directory of different people. So this Linux machine is going to be used by people in the company, right? It's going to be used by you, your coworkers, and other people in the company. So under home, here, we're going to have you. Let's say your name is James. James is going to be here. James, we're going to have Stan, that's me. We're going to have a Tech High Priest THP. So a lot of people are going to have a home directory. It just means that's where you store all your stuff when you log in to a Linux machine. That's the first place you will find yourself, in your home, before you go to any place. You would always start from your home directory. So if we create a new user in this system, and this user, let's say his name is Andrew, he will automatically have a directory under home called Andrew. So Now, how do we get to Andrew? We begin from root again. Root to home to Andrew, which means root to home to Andrew. That is how we get to Andrew. Good. So the next thing we have unique service resource. US arrow is another directory in Linux that just stores applications and utilities for Linux. And then we have XC or /etc, as other people might call it /etc. /etc just stores configuration files. And we have opt or root/root. So there is a user in Linux called root, a person, he's called root. He's the highest ranking officer in Linux. He's gonna have his own home under /root. So every other person have their home under /home, but the root user have his own home under /root. And they will have opt. Opt is going to be used to put optional third-party software. And then we're going to have lib for system libraries. Boot, when your machine is booting, your phone, your iPhone, your Android, they have all the files that help your machine to come on are stored in boot. So this one, boot. We have sbin, and all these are binaries, secure binaries, regular binaries. var is where we could store applications like our Apache web server files. Now, if you don't get that, that's all right, but these are variable files. These are files that change a lot, like logs or databases. Don't worry, when we get there to that level, you're going to remember because wisdom will remind you. And we have mount, I will explain that, media, and then temp for temporary internet files. In fact, I have a file, let me see. This is a file, explain the Linux hierarchical system. So you can look at this file, and it's okay if you cannot remember everything. As you begin to play with them over and over, you begin to remember a lot. And you don't really need to remember everything to be the expert. You can always use online resources as references to recall what you've forgotten. So in this lesson, we've talked really briefly about the Linux hierarchical structure. We've told you the topmost, which is the /, it's a location. It's not a person. The / means root. It's a location. I say it's an equivalent to like the C drive in Windows. And from there, you can go to all other directories within your Linux file system. Now, in the next video, we are going to start running some commands and we're going to start playing with Linux. If you have any questions, put in the comment sections and I'll be really glad to help you. Thank you and see you. Hey, like, subscribe. Tech High Priest here. Thank you.